first grade, it's Miss Tia. Today is our last day of talking about the parts of a plant. Today we're going to talk about flowers. But before we do that, let's sing our song one last time. It is the parts of a plant song. So let's sing together. Oh, do you know the parts of plants, the parts of plants, the parts of plants? Oh, do you know the parts of plants that make them grow and grow? The roots they hold the plant in place, the plant in place, the plant in place. The roots they hold the plant in place, soak up food and water too. The stem moves water up the plant, up the plant, up the plant. The stem moves water up the plant brings water to the leaves. The leaves soak up the rays of sun, the rays of sun, the rays of sun. The leaves they soak the rays of sun and help the plant make food. Flowers, the flower grows into a fruit, into a fruit, into a fruit. The flower grows into a fruit which holds the tiny seeds. Now you know the parts of plants, the parts of plants, the parts of plants. Now you know the parts of plants that make them grow and grow. So we've reviewed all the parts of the plant. And today, the final part is flower. So the first thing I want to do is read this really beautiful book all about flowers. Plants need flowers. Flowers make seeds and fruits for plants. Flowers come in many colors, shapes, and sizes. Flower buds grow from the stem of a plant. The buds open and flowers bloom. Flowers have pollen inside. Pollen helps flowers make seeds. So this is a great connection to our bee unit that we just finished, because flowers hold all the pollen and the bees have to collect the pollen, and bees cross-pollinate. So they take the pollen to other flowers to make them able to grow fruits. So bees are really important in this whole system as well. But flowers have the pollen inside of them. Parts of the flower turn into fruit. Seeds grow inside the fruit. New plants grow from seeds. So the flower, as you can see, kind of withers away, and inside is where the fruit grows and grows and grows. All kinds of flowers. Colorful flower petals attract birds. The birds sip on nectar inside the flower. So here's a hummingbird. So the colors are really there to attract bees and birds. Roses have soft petals that smell good. Roses grow on bushes. So not all flowers grow on one stem, kind of like our picture. Not all flowers grow on a stem like that. Some flowers grow on bushes or trees even. Flowers we eat. We eat some flowers. Cauliflower is a white flower. We eat it raw or cooked. So there are edible flowers that you might see in a garden, but there are also flowers that we consider vegetables, and cauliflower is one of them. Artichokes are flower buds. They make good dips and sauces, or just cooked by themselves, they're pretty delicious too. Wonderful flowers. Pretty or plain, large or small, flowers help plants make fruit and seeds. So that's a little bit about flowers. I also wanted to show you this other book, From Seed to Plant, which we have been looking at earlier in the week. So I just wanted to read a little bit more of this book. So it says, many plants grow flowers. Flowers are where most seeds begin. A flower is made up of many parts. So here's the stem coming up. This is the sepal, which is like the little leaf part that is underneath the flower. Then it says here, at the bottom of the pistil, here's the pistil, are tiny egg cells called ovules. And then it says, the parts of the flower around the pistil are stamens. So these little springy bits are called the stamens. One is called a stamen. And then this long straight part is called the pistil. And the center of the flower is the pistil. The stamen make yellow powder called pollen. So the stamen comes out and the pollen is on the end of the stamen. And here's the pistil, and at the top is called the stigma. The sticky part at the top of the pistil is the stigma. And then, of course, the petal. Before a seed can begin to grow, a grain of pollen from the stamen must land on the stigma at the top of the pistil. And it has to be pollen from a flower like itself. So you couldn't have a pollen from this poppy come all the way over here and hit the stigma. It has to be from the same type of flower. So pollen from the stamen has to hit the stigma. It's really sticky. And then when this happens, this is called pollination. And that's what birds and bees help with. They help move the pollen from the stamen to the stigma in the middle, because it can't just jump there, although sometimes a really strong breeze could maybe move some pollen, but not enough. Pollination happens in different ways. Often wind blows, like I said, pollen from flower to flower. So the wind could blow it. There's a nice strong wind. Bees, other insects, and hummingbirds help pollinate too. While they visit flowers for their sweet juice called nectar, pollen rubs onto their bodies. Then they carry the pollen to another flower where it comes off onto its pistil. So over here, while the hummingbird was sipping nectar, a little pollen got on its tummy. And then it flew over to this flower, and while it was drinking the nectar from this flower, it rubs off its tummy onto the pistil, or the stigma at the top of the pistil. That's the sticky part. And here's the bee doing the exact same thing. Over here, it got on its tummy, and then it flew to this flower, and it's rubbing off on the pistil when it's at the next flower. If a pollen grain from a flower lands on the pistil of the same kind of flower, it grows a long tube through the pistil into an ovule. This is the beginning of a seed. So the pollen grain lands up here at the top of the pistil, the stigma, and then it grows this tube that goes all the way down into the ovule, and this is how seeds are made. And then we already read this page, so this is how the seeds grow inside the flower, and the flower begins, as the flower begins to die, the seeds become bigger, and a fruit or a pod grows. So this is how pollination happens, and this is how seeds grow inside flowers. So flowers are super duper important for making more plants. That's where it all happens. All right, the last thing I want to talk about is the flower vegetables. So like I said, there are some flowers that you might see in a garden that are edible, but the flowers that I'm interested in talking about today that we eat are the ones that we consider vegetables. And they're often sometimes called the head of the plant. So here's broccoli, Brussels sprouts, artichoke, cauliflower. Those are the main ones that we eat and consider vegetables. All right, before we forget anything else, let's get out our Parts of a Plant book and flip to All About Flowers. Now, as you can see, when I was doing my leaf rubbing yesterday, kind of got leaf all over my page, but it's all good. So let's think, 3 facts we learned about flowers. If you need to pause the video for some think time, do that now. If you need some help coming up with ideas, here is what I'm going to write. The flower is where pollination happens. And pollination is when pollen gets onto the pistil that makes the tube grow down to the ovule and makes a seed. The flower is where pollination happens. Oops. And the other really important thing about flowers is that fruit grows from flowers. So as flowers die, fruit grows. And some flowers we eat. We eat broccoli, I'll do artichokes. I really like artichokes. I mean, have you ever had artichoke dip? It's amazing. Artichokes, and I personally really love cauliflower with ranch dressing. And cauliflower. Awesome. Now let's draw some flowers we can eat. First, I'll draw some broccoli. When I was little, I didn't want to eat my broccoli, so my mom just called them trees. Maybe your family calls them trees too. So that's broccoli. And then I love drawing artichokes. They're so delicate. Well, they're not really delicate, actually. They're quite sturdy. But I just love how all the little leaves or petals of the artichoke kind of nest in together. Artichoke. Artichokes are also good if you just steam them and then melt some butter and you dip the ends of the petals in the butter and you kind of pull it on your bottom teeth. Yum. And last but not least, I'll draw some cauliflower. With some of all right, there we go. Cauliflower. Now, after you draw and label, make sure you color. So let's see, I'll color in my broccoli first. This green is called forest green, which is perfect because this is a little tree, right? And oftentimes when I'm coloring, to make it look more realistic, I like to mix more than one color of the same color, just because things are not all one color. There's always a little mix in there. All right, so color in all of your pictures. And when you're done with that, join me on the next page. Our last activity we're going to do this week is we're not actually going to do a scientific drawing of a flower. It's called a diagram. I put it wrong in the book. So we're going to draw a diagram of the flower, and we're going to use the picture from the book to help us. So here's the picture from the book, and then we're going to draw our own diagram. of a flower. All right, so when I am drawing a flower, I like to start in the middle and kind of work my way out. So make sure when you're doing a diagram, you do lots of detail, and very important, you add labels. So down here is going to be the stem coming up. Actually, let's do this one. I think this one's more detailed. Because here it says stem. And then I'm going to draw the sepal. And as you can tell, this flower has actually been cut in half. So it's not realistic because when you walk outside, you wouldn't see a flower cut in half. But this way we can see inside of the flower. All right, so here's the stem. And then the sepal is the little leafy thing that's underneath a flower. So I need to connect my label. Here's the sepal. There it is. And then the ovules, these little ovals, ovule, oval, sounds similar. And this is the pistil. So here's the ovule. An ovule is one, and ovules are two of them. And here's the pistil. That's like the long, stemmy kind of part that comes out of the ovule. Pistil. And then I love this thing at the top. It looks like one of those sticky hands that you like throw onto the window. So it's kind of, or like an amoeba, I don't know. And it's kind of sticky. So I'm going to draw like some pollen stuck on there. So that's the stigma. Awesome. And then we have these little stamen that come off. So next time you can go to the grocery store and check out the flower department, or when you're out for a walk, see if you can find all these little parts. You won't be able to see the ovule because they're kind of hidden up, but you'll be able to see the stem and the sepal and the pistil and the stigma, and these are the stamen. So the stamen are the actual little stemmy bits, and then the pollen is at the top of each of the stamen. So that is the pollen. Perfect. And we've left off the most important, well, not most important actually. All this stuff is really important, but the most identifiable part of a flower, which are the petals. So I'm going to draw, and it's okay, I'm going to go outside of my box, and that's okay. So one, and I'll draw this side next. Two, and three. And they added a little detail, like it's a little curved over here. And flower petals also have these little veins in them. So make sure you draw those. They're not as like pronounced as in leaves, but you can still see them. And then label the petal. Awesome. And the last step, of course, is to color. So I'm going to color the stem and the sepal, make a darker green. And then I'll do the pistil, and the stamen, a lighter green. Oh, I forgot to color the stigma. And make sure you color the pollen in yellow. And then pick what color you want your petals to be. I might do mine orange. And when I color, I'm going to shade it so that I don't cover up my labels. I still want to be able to see the labels. You get a chance, you could actually cut a real flower in half and look inside and see if you can find all these parts. That could be a fun activity. Finish coloring the last petal. And there you have it. So let's just review, make sure we have all the parts. We have the stem, the sepal, the ovule, the pistil, the stamen, the pollen. This is the sticky stigma, and the petal. And there is your diagram of a flower. I hope you had fun this week learning all about the parts of plants, and I hope next time you're eating, you'll notice what parts of plants you might be eating. Just to close, I wanted to show you this really fun picture I found to show that we eat such a variety of the parts of the plant. The flowers, like cauliflower, broccoli, and artichoke. The stems, rhubarb, asparagus, celery. We eat the leaves, like cabbage, lettuce, spinach. The roots are carrots, radishes, potatoes, sweet potatoes. Seeds like corn, beans, peas, popcorn. And of course, we eat the fruits like tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, and pumpkins. So really think about, when you're eating, think about how we eat the whole of a plant. Well, we don't eat the whole of the plant, but we eat all parts of plants, from the flowers to the seeds, to the fruits, to the leaves. It's just really interesting to be aware of that when you're eating. Enjoy eating your plants, and I'll see you next time. Bye.